Please introduce yourselves and briefly summarize your education and professional background, as well as your current roles at Advanced Drainage Systems.
My name is Brian King. I'm the Executive Vice President of Product Management, Marketing, and Sustainability at ADS. I was educated in Canada, so I'm going to use some or tell you some university names most people probably don't recognize, but I went to Master University for a business degree. And then I've done continuing education at York University in Canada and also at University of North Carolina and the Ohio State University.
Hi, Todd. I'm Chris Stoneburg. I'm the Director of Product Development at Advanced Drainage Systems in our storage and treatment categories. I've been with the organization well over 3 years now. My background's in civil environmental engineering. I have both my bachelor's and master's from the Ohio State University, and love the Columbus area.
So, we're mostly here to talk about the company's new Engineering and Technology Center. Can you please describe it a little, including why it was built and what it hopes to achieve?
Yeah, I'll take it from, the conversation that we had when we sort of first started talking about the actual initiation of the Science and Technology Center. And Scott Barber, who's our CEO, one of the things that he wanted to do was create a place where people could come together and have the technology and the tools, and also a location where we could innovate. And what that means is, we had those resources spread across the organization in a variety of different places. And so when we made the capital investments that are needed to do cutting edge research, we would have to choose where we wanted to put that equipment. We'd have to have people that weren't located at that location, or we'd choose to make an investment on two smaller pieces of technology as opposed to the cutting edge piece of technology. And so by creating a singular place where all of the different functions, a lot of it engineering, a lot of science, material science, could be together in one location. It drives collaboration, it drives a community, and it gives us the ability to be able to have all those folks in one place. And we can focus on what it is that we need to do from an innovation perspective when you're talking about stormwater. There's no place like this on the planet. And part of the reason we did that is because we have to continue to innovate products. We have to be smarter about our material science usage, and we have to continue to develop solutions and products that meet the needs of a changing environment. And Chris works in that, so he can tell you what actually happens in the building. I can just conceptually tell you what we thought it was going to be when we decided to build it.
Yeah, Todd, I think the excitement level here is related to the speed of how we get things done. Brian mentioned just as the highest level, we were scattered across like entire United States of our different R&D functions, and the ability to bring it into one location, have those teams be able to collaborate, meet, discuss, problem solve. The speed is part of what the direction of this building drives. And I think from our CEO down, the excitement level that being at ADS and having a building like this enables us to move faster, enables us to kind of move past the competition, accelerate the markets, accelerate the technologies, and bring those kind of best in class, state of the art stormwater, either to convey, pipe, capture, storage, treatment categories across the US, nationally, et cetera. So it's a very, very fun and exciting place to go every day, and kind of being part of the lab space too. You get on the front part of what the generation of new technology, new development is. And that's what the company strives for. So it's kind of very exciting time to be at ADS in this building. It really initiates that into like the next development of future projects.
Could you describe a couple of specifics, maybe like a use case of how this new center is making it easier, like perhaps like an old way of how this was done, and then how the new center makes that better?
Yeah, so a good example is our hydraulic lab. Historically, we had a facility in Maryland that had very little volume and little flow control related to how they were able to test and qualify new treatment projects or products. Here at the Hilliard Engineering and Technology Center, we have a state-of-the-art. I think as Brian mentioned it earlier, this is like the only facility in its class. But we have approximately 90,000 gallons of underground storage, closed looped recycled water that enables faster development of our treatment products, as well as just better control of the process of how we qualify. We have a state-of-the-art kind of controls and our control valves, our flow meters that really enable and unlock, the best in class way to qualify new products in the treatment space. Part of that then drives obviously faster development. So, example of a recent product that we're trying to bring to market soon, we've accelerated time schedules and how we deliver that product. Just been faster to kind of run through it here in the building than we've done historically.
I mean, it probably makes sense to just overview the building. It's 108,000 square feet. It cost us $65 million. It has the capabilities like Chris mentioned. There's a hydraulics lab in the back. We have two material science labs, one that does the material qualifications and the other lab, which allows us to actually, after we've qualified and done I'm going to mess the word up because I'm not a material scientist, but after you've done the actual classification of the polymers, we can take it to an extrusion lab and then we can actually see how it runs on a scale process without actually taking it to one of our facilities. And so that allows us to go through different types of material sources, different types of recycled goods. We use over 500 million pounds of plastic a year. That's recycled plastic a year, and they come from different places. And if you've worked in the recycling industry, you know that the sources are not always clean. And so this gives us the ability to classify that material and allow us to do the blends before we actually get into our manufacturing space. We've also got a fabrication lab, which Chris mentioned, allows us to make tests of molds and new products and do that in a much faster scale. We've then got the ability to break that. My favorite lab is second favorite lab, I guess. The favorite lab is definitely the lab Chris talked about, which is the hydraulics lab. The second favorite lab is where we break stuff and we actually take things through, the actual testing to make sure that the stress and the pressures and when you actually build a stormwater system and put it underground, that it's actually going to work. And then in the back of the building, we have an engineering bay where we have the ability to actually set up, if we wanted to, a full production line and be able to actually do qualifications and work on new products before we actually have to interrupt or break into our manufacturing facilities. And so that's the capabilities that are in the building. And, we've just started. And to Chris's point, everybody's very excited about how this is going to accelerate our progress because everything is in one place and you can do much faster product iteration, much faster development.
Okay, so I've heard and seen this described as the only or the biggest center of its kind. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that because it's is it like in the wastewater industry, or is it have all of these elements that aren't normally there? What makes it so special and unique, I guess?
I think it's in stormwater and focused on stormwater. And when people talk about the water industry, like you mentioned, they tend to think about either wastewater or they tend to think about potable water. Stormwater is the forgotten uh, leg of the stool when it comes to the water cycle. And so there's not a lot of places where you can go and test the type of things that you need to when you're developing a stormwater solution. And like Chris mentioned in the hydraulics lab, being able to actually take sediment, being able to take out some of the pollutants that are in the water and do that in a facility where you can do it at scale, that doesn't really exist. Or if it does exist, you have to go there and set it up. And we're not going to have to do that. We're ready to go in our location. And so I think it's really the combination of all those things that we ran through very quickly, having them very close and having the talent to be able to share that progress. That's what makes it different. That's what makes the focus different, and that's what makes we think the center unique because it is focused on that stormwater piece.
All right, that makes sense. And you provided a nice one example of one of the things that you think is an improved bit of research. But can you share some other specific details about other ongoing research that's either happening right now or something that you've got in the near pipeline?
To start on the material side, related to just how we kind of look and continue to explore different polymers in the space. So, like anything else, as you kind of get into a production scale, you're looking for the most cost-effective ways to do things, but also maintain quality. So, one of the valuable assets of the material science lab is that it kind of unlocks that kind of exploration around exploring different polymers, different resin blends. And it allows us to kind of keep our cost in a competitive nature in the field, in the market. So our ability to kind of qualify those materials at a small scale them up into a kind of a pipe production pilot line, and then actually make full scale pipe here is unlocks a major capability as we buy millions of pounds of polymer resin every year. And there's also part of that is the recycling side. So as we look at new recycle streams, the capabilities of the material science lab, our fabrication lab, our automation and engineering and technology lab, it allows us to kind of go make that pilot pipe and qualify it again before it actually meets the manufacturing side. So I think when we're looking at how we're staying competitive and actually accelerating the market on the stormwater side, the material blend piece is a huge part of how we're trying to continue to drive market share, kind of continue to drive our product development, product performance in the market space.
I mean, Chris talked a lot about the polymer side. There's also advanced engineering in the building as well too. And so one of the projects that we're actually working on right now is how do you do die changes on some of our machines without using the equipment that's currently in place, right? How do we make that more effective and efficient? How do we actually do that in a way that reduces safety or risk from an injury perspective, increases our safety? And by being able to set that up in a lab type situation and run through that process, it's allowing us to make our machinery significantly better, to add automation, to potentially do those tasks, and to make it safer to the employees in the facilities. And so that's one part that's a little different than the material science side of things. It is definitely advanced manufacturing techniques, and we've also got a robotics lab as well too, looking at how do we automate and do some downstream automation or automation across our manufacturing facility to take out high risk jobs, to take out jobs that people don't like to do. It's not that we want to take people out of the process, but we want to make sure that we're driving efficiency and effectiveness. I mean, it's hard to find people in this environment. It's probably not the first time you've heard that labor continues to be a challenge, especially in a manufacturing environment. So how do we make those jobs? How do we enrich them? How do we make them better? How do we drive automation? How do we look at a different skill set of people who are going to work in our manufacturing facilities? And we can do that work here in a lab scale condition, in a test condition, before we actually take it out to a production facility. If you've ever seen a production facility try to implement automation, you know that sometimes the upset condition that exists, it hammers on your productivity, it hammers on your safety, and it's generally not a fun place to be. If we can do all that in this facility, which we have spec'd it out to do, it's going to make those changes a lot more effective and efficient, and our ability to scale across the network is going to be so much faster.
So in terms from all of your learning and hope to keep learning from all of this research, how much of that is used just internally within your company, and is any of that shared through more like public papers, like academia?
We partner very closely with the Ohio State University here locally on either through capstone projects that they're working on or just additional research that we're looking at, especially on like stormwater technology specifically. But Ohio State is big partners of ours through the Sustainability Institute. So we're working ongoing with them. They've actually just installed a couple of our technologies in their space, a couple of parking lots around the university, where we're demonstrating the qualification in a field setting of that product, partnering with them, and then writing research papers or white papers to help kind of continue to build that public knowledge of what we're doing. We also have been a longtime partner of Ohio University, just through their civil structural organization. We brought in a lot of our talent around as Ohio University individuals. We got a couple internships here, but they've been doing ongoing research with us quite a bit, and a lot of our storage and structural products as well. And working with them on developing papers that we've either produced through ASTM, different trade shows, the Traffic Research Board, a lot of different sort of external organizations that we continue to try to market what we're doing, and then partnering with those universities and institutions allows us to kind of drive that into the market and continue to obviously differentiate ADS as part of that.
Okay, so in terms of other researchers, perhaps those maybe at these universities, or if someone's at another university or maybe someplace else doing their own research, can they connect with you guys and possibly help contribute to what you're doing? I mean, do you look for outside help, or is this mostly with ADS and the partner universities you just spoke of?
I mean, we definitely look to collaborate and share. I mean, the industry itself advances if people are sharing ideas, and this gives capability to do things that we have not as an industry been able to do. And so, like Chris mentioned, I mean, we are open to those partnerships. We're open to, if it's advancing stormwater solutions, if it's providing different, specifications or increasing performance of products, we're always open to talking to people that have ideas, from a material science perspective, the actual product itself, how we can change some of the codes and standards. I mean, obviously, a lot of what we do is dependent on codes and standards, and so we're always looking to try to improve that to make sure that those codes and standards are representative of a real world application, that it's not just some test that you have to do, but it's actually a performance driven criteria that actually shows what the benefits of using, in our case, right, plastic products to manage stormwater. And so, yeah, we're open to that. I would tell you that since the facility is opened, I think as of yesterday, I heard we've taken something like 350 people through the building on tours, and that's been a combination of our customers, obviously our internal folks, but it's been a lot of people in the academic community to just show them the capabilities that we have and talk about those opportunities to partner.
Okay, so hypothetically, let's say someone is watching or listening to this and this is right up their alley and then they're interested in helping. How might they connect with you guys and offer a way to contribute?
They should talk to Chris.
I was gonna, Brian's gonna give out his home phone and just call directly that way.
No,
I'm
I
guessing
mean,
there's a website they can maybe find you guys.
yeah, I mean,
Yes.
our website, adspipe.com, is a good place to connect with us. And you can obviously you can find ways to connect with us there. That's probably the first place to go. And we can help people connect within the organization. So that's definitely the first place. Yeah, website, front door of the company.
Okay, so in the beginning, we talked a little bit about what you set out to do with this research center. Has there something along the way that kind of surprised you that you weren't really expecting to benefit from, but it's come up?
I know we've hinted on it a little bit, but I think the continued interest from external third parties to kind of come see this facility. I know we've kind of thrived to do that originally, but I think as we've kind of grown and opened the doors, you're seeing a lot more of that. We've had, third party institutions like the Department of Transportation here in Ohio. A lot of our supplier customers have been here too. And I think when we bring them through, I think the interest and eye popping that comes forward with that tour is also very interesting and exciting to see. And I think that's positive in a way because we talk a lot about sort of how we're accelerating things. And Brian hinted on this a little bit too, but when information is shared, everyone benefits in that space. So from a technology space, when we're bringing in people that may not be core to what our technologies are, but they have some ideas of how to like do this differently, or I saw this, and then like that collaboration space opens up even more. And it's beyond a network that we probably were even considering. So if I kind of answer that question well, it's just like the network expansion of what this building is going to unlock for us as we look at new partners, new suppliers, just new institutions, new relationship builds, that part. So that's been very interesting, and I think different than what I would have expected working out of this building.
Yeah, we knew people were going to be interested and want to see the building, so we actually designed it in such a way that the tour path that you actually go on allows you to, number one, you don't have to wear PPE because we designed it in such a way that you don't have to, safety is covered because you're not actually in the labs, you're not actually in the places where people are working. And you can look into those places of work, see what's going on. At the same time, you're not disturbing the people that are actually doing the work. If you've ever worked at a facility that people love to tour, I mean, a lot of the times the people that work there hate it because it disrupts what they're doing, right? It gets in the way of the actual work that they're doing. And we designed the building in such a way that you can walk through it without disturbing the folks that are actually in the lab. So there's lots of windows, there's lots of signage, there's lots of information about what is happening within the different things that you're looking at. And what's been really, to Chris's point, what's been really exciting is seeing how people have just reacted to that. It's much more than we thought, right? And when you take one group through, they always say, "Oh, it'd be really interesting. I belong to this other group, and I know that they would love to see this." And so it is a little bit like you tell a friend who tells two friends who tells two friends. But that's what we're starting to see. So as we've exposed, local members of the local, engineering societies, that's led us to bringing other groups through. The Ohio EPA came through. That led us to bring through the Ohio Stormwater Association. I mean, it just sort of rolls on from there. And to your point, the reason we have this is to get people together, to get them collaborating, to get them talking, to get them to start thinking about stormwater as an asset, as something that we should actually think about, as a valuable asset. It's really important. It's not a nuisance, right? I would tell you, I think most people think of stormwater. You don't think about it until it's there and it's flooding something, and then it's a nuisance and you want to get rid of it. And we need to change that. We need to start thinking about stormwater as being an asset, and it's a valuable asset. And how do we actually manage it is in companion to drinking water and wastewater.
Quickly, why do you think it has been kind of a third tier member of the water business?
I think just historically, I mean, the way that you've designed stormwater solutions is always to get water away from where you don't want it to where you want it, right back into the watershed. And we haven't really thought about it. And there's been abundant supply of, municipal water and wastewater has been, it's a separate treatment system. And so I think really as we move forward, I mean, I'll use Central Ohio as a great example. There's been a lot of interest and investment in Central Ohio because we have, abundance of water and good access through our utilities and our infrastructure. But when you start to add on, you've got Intel here, you've got a lot of data centers. There was recently an announcement of a large investment that's going to be made down at Rickenbacker Airport. I mean, the Central Ohio associations that I belong to, the Columbus Partnership, now everybody is starting to talk about water scarcity, water sensitivity. And one of the solutions that everybody looks for is, well, how can we not necessarily use potable municipal water? How could we potentially use wastewater? How could we use stormwater to look at some of the needs that we have? If you're cooling down a data center, does it have to be potable water that you're actually cooling it down with, or could you use something else? And I think it's that sort of innovation and connections, frankly, with people seeing what we're doing here in Central Ohio that is going to allow us to explore things like that. And that's going to be just better for everybody. It's going to be faster for people to, build. They're not going to have to wait for someone to actually put in the potable water or the wastewater. You're going to be able to potentially, integrate that with a stormwater solution. So it's just a more cohesive way to think about things. And I just think that's how we're going to have to think about things moving forward. We didn't have to in the past, and that's why stormwater was just sort of a nuisance.
Todd, the only thing I would add to Brian's comments, he's 100% spot on, was the drought and flooding conditions, I think, have become more apparent in the U.S. And when we, historically 25 years ago, as the stormwater side continued to grow, like the public is seeing it more. You obviously through media publication, but generally there's the storm events. You're seeing more and more 50-year, 100-year type storm events than you were 25, 50 years ago. And so when we talk about the third leg of the stool, I think it's a more visible one because it ends up being more catastrophic. And our ability to kind of produce products, produce the necessary technology packages that allow us to manage and handle that water is important for us. It's as a business, but it's important for the public. I mean, I don't want to see my backyard flooded all the time. I don't want to see trench drains that are plugged because the water can't go. There's not a flow control volume. So it's becoming a more visible one. It just in the news and the storm events, et cetera. So I think that's been picking up quite a bit as the public perception of it.
Yeah, I mean, Hurricane Helene, right, which was the second of the three big hurricanes that hit Florida this year. Hurricane Helene dropped 42 trillion gallons of water on the US. And 42 trillion gallons of water is really hard to imagine what that is. And so I'm going to ask you a question, Todd. Have you been to Niagara Falls ever?
I have a few times.
Okay. So if you were standing at the side of Niagara Falls and you wanted to watch 21 trillion gallons of water go over Niagara Falls, you'd be there for 21 months. That's an unbelievable amount of water. And so to Chris's point, right? I mean, I think as we're starting to see what's happening with weather and as it's changing, that's making it much more visible, and people are starting to think about, how do we harness this? How do we manage it? How do we use it in the best possible way?
All right, thanks. If I could squeeze in one non-center related question. I've heard a lot about your company's plastic recycling program and how effective it is. Could you kind of describe the program a little bit? The materials that come in and out, and why this seems to work so well and so much better than kind of just general municipal plastic recycling?
So we recycle 500,000 pounds of plastic each year. It's predominantly HDPE and polypropylene. We do actually buy it from material recovery facilities or MRFs across the U.S. And we are one of the largest users of plastic. And I would tell you what makes it different for us versus a lot of other recycling programs or other sustainability initiatives is we actually make money because we use recycled materials. And I know a lot of companies struggle from a sustainability recycling perspective around, can you actually make money? It's the right thing to do from a sustainability perspective. It's the right thing to do from, using materials that potentially can go into a circular economy, reducing waste to landfill. But we actually make money as well as all those things. And I think that's part of what really drives this. We vertically integrated such that we can buy bales out of the MRFs. We can wash them, we can shred them, we can clean them, turn them into pellets, and then use those pellets through the material science in our new engineering and technology center, send them to our plants, and then they can make saleable pipe, which goes into the ground for 100 years. So you take this plastic material, which could end up as waste, and you turn it into a durable good that can last for 100 years. And at the end of that 100 years, theoretically, you could we haven't had pipe in the ground for 100 years yet because we're only a 65, 66-year-old company. But theoretically, at the end of life, you can dig it up, you can wash it off, you can grind it back up, and you can make more pipe out of it. And so it really is a circular economy. And I think that business model, I think the fact that, again, we make money doing this, and the fact that it makes a product which is equally as good as a product made from virgin material, it just hits on a lot of things. Now, what I would tell you is we wish we had more access to recycled materials. We bought, I think last year, 25% of all the milk jugs and the detergent containers, your Tide bottle. We bought 25% of what has been recycled in the US. We wish we could get more. And so that's my plug for please put your HDPE product into your recycling box or your container. Please take it out to the end of the driveway because we want to use it. We want to turn it into a durable good.
Yeah, I think the I was gonna chime in on that one, Brian. Like I think the biggest piece of the gaps in doing more is the public outreach piece, which we as a company do a really good job trying to promote that with our partners in that space. But I will say on a personal level, share, like even my wife doesn't recycle all that well. And so just like educating her around the importance of it, obviously Bias now is working for a plastic pipe company, but I think some of it's just the education piece. And I think as we continue to grow and partner with those recycle firms and the Murphs and the Rumpkes of the world, like that's only going to benefit us as a like a organization, but also the public as a whole too, because we're going to keep less out of landfills. So, or more out of landfills. So it's a positive win all the way around. I think it's the education piece to get the public wherever all of us want it to be.
You can
Okay,
tell
well,
we're passionate. You can tell we're passionate about recycling because we'll talk about it.
I am too.
Talk
So
about
we're
it
passing
forever.
the audience.
Yes.
Please recycle
Yeah.
everything, especially your plastics. Would it also be more helpful if other businesses, kind of like closer, more spread out, had a better end use for the recycling program, so that they can make money off of recycling too? Would that encourage, kind of a
Yeah,
circular loop?
I definitely think that you don't get to a circular economy until you're working with other companies. In fact, one of the waste streams that we buy is a waste good from another company that we think of as being a really high value HDPE product. And so we put a value on that. They would, if they didn't know about us, they would likely have disposed of that and put it into a landfill. And so you're right. It's those connections between companies to say, here's a material that I have, right, which for me is a scrap material. Is this potentially a good material for you? And that, we talked about post consumer and putting your materials into your blue box, but at the same time, post industrial waste and how do you make those connections? Those are where you really drive some really positive efficiencies. And like I said, we have a couple of examples where we are buying end of line material, where we buy startup scrap from people who are making other HDPE products when they're doing that line purge. We actually buy that material and we can process that as well through. So you don't get to a circular economy by yourself. I think there's a lot of pressure. Sometimes you may have heard of this concept of bottle to bottle recycling. If you have a pop bottle and you drink the soda out of it, you got to get it back to the company so they can recycle it and make it into another pop bottle. I think that limits our ability to actually make circular economies happen. We need to think about, how do you put durable goods into that? How do you use the material in something else? And that really, I think, is going to unleash, opportunity in the circular economy. So yes, you nailed it, right? We have to have those conversations. We have to tell people what we're doing. We have to say, yes, plastics recycling can work. There's a lot of people who don't think it can. It can work, but it's a lot of work to make that happen.
All right, that's great. I love that topic. And if anyone out there is got some waste products, doesn't need to be plastic. There's other people that use other waste products from whatever it is that you might be doing that maybe can be reused by somebody else. So think about that
Yes.
as you're working.
I'd like to thank your interest in our facility. I mean, obviously, we're very proud of it. We love to talk about it, as you can tell. We love to talk about stormwater. We love to talk about recycling as well too. So we just appreciate the interest and we appreciate the exposure to what it is we're doing. We at ADS we say our reason is water, and then hopefully you've been able to understand that it absolutely lives and breathes in everybody who works here.
The last one I would say, Todd, is I think Brian was part of my interview panel when I hired him on the company, and I think I always pick on him about this, but I think being here at the company, it's been the first time that I think I've been truly passionate about a brand and what we do and making a difference. And I think like that's an important thing that we should make sure we're emphasizing as an organization. We do, but that's been a very clear message of how we run our company, the efforts we make on the development side, and then obviously the pure sustainability piece that drives that too. So it's been a whirlwind of activity, especially with this new building startup, but excited for the future. So I think it's going to be bright for us.